Hey, what's happening, boys? Mr. Hill here. Just going to go through a couple of quick slides for our next internal. It's really important that we do crack on and just sort of work on basic tasks to keep moving forward. Therefore, when you get back to school, we're not far behind. This next one's actually pretty cool, I think. Me and Mr. Powsland have been working on it in the background. So we're actually going to evaluate the effectiveness of performance improvement program, so a training program. However, instead of last year where you looked at things like methods of training, we're going to look at a lot more of the social cultural things. So things outside of training physically that actually influence you and how hard you can train. All right. So there's a lot of arguments around these things, and there's some research that needs to be done. We are going to give you a badminton training program, okay? The idea is that we get to play quite a bit of badminton throughout the next few weeks. There'll be training sessions given to you, and your coaches, i.e. me and Mr. Powsland, will run you through those training sessions. How you engage with those and how well you can train will kind of determine how well you can write the paper, all right? So I want you to treat this program as if you are trying to make a team. Think about your own coach, rugby, basketball, soccer, whatever. I want you to try and make the team. So train hard, listen to your coaches, and take on feedback. Now, you're going to be challenged to play a game that is not necessarily your strength and also perhaps out of your comfort zone. And what we want to do is evaluate in our reports or presentations or whatever you guys want to do, why that might be. Why do you think badminton doesn't necessarily spark your interest? If it does, great, and we need to figure out why it does. But if it doesn't, or if it's not a sport that you've played a lot, or it's not something you would go and do on your own with your own motivation, we want to think about why that is, okay? What we're going to look at is the socio-cultural things. So we've looked at this stuff on the right-hand side here, and you can definitely still use these things, okay? But there won't be any teaching on these things, boys. Now, if I'm talking about, for example, increasing power in your smash or your drop shot skill, okay, you can definitely link in biomechanics and anatomy that you have already learned through the previous papers. That will help you get merit and excellence. Now, that is not the focus over here. These 4 things or 5 things are what we are going to focus on, and we will use these things on the right hand side in specific sports psychology to help us to do that, okay? So one more time, you can definitely use these, especially if you're critiquing our program, which we want you to do. We want you to evaluate the program and how good it is and what you might do differently. But the focus is these things over here, boys, okay? These are the social-cultural factors that we're going to go through, and you'll be talking about how they affect you when we're trying to train, all right? So what I'd like you to do first off is just a short research task for us, okay? This is going to take you about 2 or 3 days, and it will show Mr. Powsland and myself who is engaging with the online learning and who's not. We expect you to log on to the classrooms, boys, and we expect you to do a little bit of work around just getting everything ready. You should have already finished your previous internal 3.2. Obviously, if you haven't, you need to keep going with that and get that done. But you should have finished for this reason, because we are going to be moving on, all right? And I want to keep you guys on track. This paper's worth 4 credits, so it's actually worth more than the last one. All right. So there's some questions over here that you guys should be able to see. Get rid of that. Okay, so all I want you to do is to look into some stereotypes, okay? We've labeled 2 specific ones for you here. These slides will be up on the Google Classroom, so you can go through them at your own time, or you can pause this video and stay here, okay? These are the questions I'd like you to start with. So my class and Mr. Powsland's class together, you guys can start a new Google Doc, 3.2, okay? Excuse me, not 3.2, 3.3. And you can answer these questions for me, okay? What I would like you to do is answer them in general. What are they? How are they accurate? How do they affect your training? And most specifically, link them back to badminton for me. Okay? So there are gender stereotypes and there are cultural stereotypes around sports and around badminton that we have to take into account to see if we can overcome them. We want to overcome them to train harder and not let these things get in our way. Okay? Some of those things that you'll find are just things like this. So, when you look into the gender of people playing the sport, you got to think about yourself. Like, does that link to myself? Am I these same people? Like, is this me? Can I see myself playing this sport? When you look into the culture and where they're from, that can also influence you. In New Zealand, we have a culture of playing things like rugby. Other countries not so much. So you're brought up with that influence. And the stereotype around these sports can definitely come from your gender and your culture. So we want to acknowledge those things. So I want specific examples. I want you to copy and paste links. And I want you to write answers to these in your own words. So a Google Doc with answers to these questions. And make sure you've got a little links section to show me where you've done your research from. All right, boys. That'll do for today and for this week. Hopefully you can get that done to us by Friday. Make sure you share your document so we know you're engaging and we don't have to follow up elsewhere. All right, cheers lads. Hope everyone's all good. Peace.